I don't know how, but I do know how to yell. Never mind, they're 34 and 33 and 29, but I still yell. This afternoon's program, as you know, is on fire escapes. We have Francisco, and I'm going to try and pronounce it. Meneses from Fire Escape Association here today, and I'm going to let him do his introduction because I don't have any kind of bio. So please welcome Francisco.
All right, so in the beginning, before I put on the slideshow, and just this specific slideshow has been used as a 6-hour continuing ed course in the state of New Jersey through Kane University. Now Rutgers picked that up, so we do this also in Massachusetts. We actually are certified to basically go out and do lunch and learns with certain code officials, and they get credits if we put on classes. We've done this in Seattle, Portland, Washington D.C., from the East Coast to the West Coast, and in the mid, we've done in Texas. We've been everywhere with this particular class, and one of the things that we do that we're doing today again is we record a lot of our classes, and a lot of times after we teach one of these classes, we get you right out in the street and we do what we're doing right here, and that is we walk around downtown. It's called a downtown walk around, and what you've learned here you apply now on fire escapes. So before I start the class, what I want to do is just open it up to general questions that you have about fire escapes, which we call the bastard child of egress. It's out of sight, out of mind. And I'll start the conversation out with a lot of these guys may or may not know this, but the gray-haired guys tell the new, dark-haired guys coming in to work in the fire department, in case of fire, don't use the fire escape. Right? So that should be blasted out on the news program so that people who live in buildings, listen, in case of fire, don't use your fire escape, not even for your plants. So that means something happened. In order for fire departments to start issuing out a backdoor order that said, hey, listen, you go get a ladder, you wait for equipment, don't ever get on a fire escape. That means something happened, or they tried to fix it, and because they could never fix it, they said, you know what? Here's the order. The standing order is don't stand on them. So what we've done is, and if you look at, and the reason, and it's a very good reason, if you look at the back of your book, this happened in Boston. And in Boston, they had, this happened in 72 or 73.
I remember that.
And it was, the Herald photographer had one of those cameras that, takes the constant shots, and he caught this, and he won a Pulitzer Prize for one of the photographs, which is this one. And basically what that was is that the story is very simple. The law was, the building code law says, fire escapes must be maintained at all times. And somebody handed me a document today. May I borrow your document? May I borrow this for a second? And guess what it says on yours? It says on yours, fire escapes 1104.16.7, maintenance. Fire escapes shall be kept clear and unobstructed at all times and shall be maintained in good working order. That's the code for maintaining fire escapes. So you have to sort of decipher what it means. So it wasn't until in Boston that they had must be maintained at all times that all of a sudden a fireman, by the way, he survived with one hand. She died when she hit the ground with all those pieces of steel falling on her, and her niece, who was 8 years old, landed on her and survived. So then all of a sudden, like, hey, we got to do something, and they said, hey, we should check these things every 5 years. Then, after that, since nobody died, it went to sleep again. So what we have is we have a national problem that, 25 years ago, fire escapes weren't a really big issue because they were all about 50 years old. 50 years ago, they were only 25 years old, and there was no problem with them because they were built rock solid. Today, Grandma is 75 to 100 years old. She needs a hip replacement. She needs a heart transplant. And all that painting and makeup that we've been putting on her for 50 to 75 years is now going to start dropping tenants and firemen like flies. So this is what we teach nationwide. This is not just a California problem. This is an East Coast problem. So I want to open it up. And what's playing on here is, if you go on YouTube and you type in Fire Escape Academy, there's about 500 videos of everybody else's problems. So if you want to see what Portland, Oregon's doing and Portland, Maine is doing, just click on their seminars that we've done. A week ago, I was just up in Seattle teaching a class. Of all the states that have gone and moved and changed the state law, Portland, Oregon. So I'll put you in contact with Stu White up there. And he was featured on some of these, and basically, but it took 5 years. What we're about to talk about today is not gonna happen overnight. You guys are on a 5-year mission. First, we're going to get yourself educated that fire escapes do exist, and you're gonna stop ignoring them on the back. Put in some triggers that are automatic, so you don't have to even think about it. It's gonna be a checklist item on a lot of your stuff. We'll talk about that today. But after you get it done, it'll take you 5 years to become a natural, that you're gonna ask for it. The same way you ask for a sprinkler test, it must be accompanied with a fire escape confidence test. The same way you ask for a smoke detector test, it must be accompanied with a current 5-year confidence test. So there's all these little triggers. You pull a permit on a building, in order to close the permit, guess what you need? A fire escape confidence test. Got it? So let's open it up. If you have any general questions, and then I'll start the class.
You use the word must be complete with a confidence test, but are you or your group working to get that language into the fire code?
Well, in most states, they already have a 5-year rule. In some states, in California, you have the 1-year rule, but mainly applying to ladders. So, am I, with my one flag in the air, crossing the great tundra of the U.S., doing the best I can? Yes, and we've made attempts with many states, and as you know, sometimes I get better grassroots activity than trying to come from the top down. So if anybody here knows how to get me through a door, you just need to get me in the room. I'll talk it out. Getting in the door is what sometimes is the hardest thing. So if you know somebody, want to do something about it, we can partner up and I'll show you what we've done. So it's a nationwide problem. I'll show you what we've done, but it's slow going.
But you are aware that all you really, in simplistic terms, all you need to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, all right?
Jump in,
All you-
go
all
for it.
you really need to do is you write a proposal for, this to be entered into the code. You submit that to ICC, they put it on the agenda for voting. You've got to go to the meetings and defend your position, but with strong enough language, I see no reason why that couldn't be entered into the code within a couple of years.
Right, prior to getting here, I gave him one of my cards, and I already met his boss, because I taught a class 3 weeks ago, and Dottie was in my class, and we're already on that. The NFPA, I'm out of Boston, is 15 minutes from my door. So that's in that 3-year cycle.
NFPA, if I might say, and anybody from NFPA here?
Go for it. I'm liking it.
They are recommended practices and
Right.
procedures, okay? They're not law, so to speak.
I know.
Okay? It needs to be into the model codes, not NFPA.
Right.
You can put something in the NFPA as, the code needs to say, maintain in accordance with NFPA whatever.
Right. And we're going to cover all 3 codes. We're going to marry all 3 codes together, yes.
To simplify, my suggestion, this gentleman is absolutely correct. It's very simple, and just for your own, in case you didn't know, anybody can submit a code change. You don't have to be a member of ICC. But what I would recommend is getting together with a group like this, with some model code language of what you think should be, run it through them, and like you said, get some sponsorship behind you. But with all of the legitimacy or the reason for implementing this code change, you pretty much have it here. Your reasoning, your justification, and it would more likely prevail. But California is probably leads the nation as far as in this type of preparedness.
Perfect. Well, I'll tell you, we've already spent, we've been at this for almost 10 years, but in the past 5 years, the model state that actually took this and actually did a code, it's really not a code change we need. Once I telling you what the code is, it's already there, what needs to happen. It's a clarification of the code, and that's what Portland, Oregon did. And they've already written, so I'm going to show you some of the language is already set, is already out there, that they used a lot of our model of what we wanted to happen. So 1 state down, 49 to go, and that's why I gave him my card earlier today, saying, hey, I need to see if there's anything we can do on that end. He goes, And I mentioned I already spoke with his boss, but then there was another gentleman on this side that, you know, with the bipartisan support of that act, the Sprinkler Act, I said, hey, how do I do that? How do I get a Fire Escape Repairs Act, you know, through the, so, but like anything else, I'm
What you
speaking
wanna-
here today, but I gotta raise my kids tomorrow.
What you
And,
want to do is you want to hit the big picture. If you try to take each state at one time, you're going to be struggling for many, many years. You need to do it at a national level, get something that's.
Well, that's one of the
that people
reasons why I do what we do
support on a
here.
national level.
But I found sometimes surrounding the castle is easier, because a lot of times I go to the castle and I got guards dumping tar and feathers on me. And what I've done is I've basically gathered the people in their pitchforks, and what happens is on a local level, they've basically taken it upon themselves to do what's called departmental procedures and guidelines, and basically within their own cities create a sort of this is what we want here that doesn't offend the code. And then from there, we start getting a little bit of a, what are you guys doing over there that's working? And all of a sudden, that's when we're finding. So believe it or not, it's a lot easier. I found that while I'm waiting for this to come from the top down, I'm working from the bottom up. And then that's why we got invited here to teach you a class. So with that, let's just so every class that we've done has been documented, recorded, and it's online. So if you go online, you go to a YouTube channel, and you type in Fire Escape Academy, there's 500 videos from Portland, Oregon. I got one with anybody here from Tim Knorr's group? Anybody know Tim Knorr?
From LA County?
LA County?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to be sending. I did a class with him, and he's up online with Tim Knorr. And we've got classes everywhere from Springfield, Illinois, to Dallas, Texas, Houston, Washington D.C. So we've got classes. So if you want to get a sense as to just how bad this problem is, just watch one of these classes. Some of your guys didn't show up in fire prevention. Make them watch this class. It's free. You don't have to. The only thing you have on there is not that I put on there, but YouTube forces these little things you got to click out to say I don't want that ad on there. But a lot of times after we teach a class, and usually the classes are 4 hours. We do a couple of hours in a class, and then we just go downtown and we do a downtown walk around like we're doing right here. I believe this is Washington D.C. So not only you get taught, we teach you not to get on fire escapes anymore. Because all you need to do is look out a window or look out a door, and you'll be able to tell whether that fire escape has been maintained or not over its lifetime. Or walk underneath it and look up, and you'll be able to tell whether it's been maintained or not. Or have they just given you a paint job? Now, write this down, because you guys have written this many times before. You guys are the main cause as to why fire escapes were not properly maintained. Because you would write a scrape and paint violation. Scrape it and paint it. Guess what the owner's going to do with that scrape and paint violation you just wrote? Because when you get there, you don't see busted bolts, you don't see connections, because you don't know to look for that, but you see this big rust bucket. So what do? You write a scrape and paint violation. When that owner gets that violation, guess who he calls? He calls Joe the painter and Bob the builder. Joe the painter goes there on this 5-story and says, hey, I can do this for $2,000. I'll paint this thing. Bob the builder gets there and says, hey, I can paint this, but I got to fix a bunch of things here first before I paint it, and I need $20,000. So he's got your violation in the middle. He's got the guy, the painter guy for $2,000. He's got the guy for $20,000. Guess who gets that contract? Right? So all of a sudden,
I request.
well, no, wait. Well, even with a structural engineer. So what happens is the painter guy paints it. You drive by because the owner's going to call you and say, hey, I'm done. Can you come look? You're going to drive by. You're not even going to get on it. But when you get out of your car, what's not there anymore?
Rust.
The rust. So in a lucky situation, you remove that violation that day. Or you may say, no, it's not me. You need to get a structural engineer to come and look at this thing, right? So the guy goes, okay. So he starts pounding the phones, and he gets Joe, Billy, the structural engineer guy to come down. And Billy, the structural engineer, gets out of his car, looks up. He goes, you're going to walk it? What do you think Billy says? Looks good to me, man. What do you need? So he gets a $300 check or a $500 check. He signs some document that says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with the California code. Any liability there? Nope. It's a spot inspection that day. Did it fall on his head that day? If it falls on somebody's head tomorrow, is he liable? Nope. Because did he do a destructive test? Did he do a load test? Did he do a certification? of any kind. So understand? So for 75 years, you guys have been writing, scrape it and paint it. From now on, you'll only write 3 things on a violation. You want to put repair, paint, test. That's all you write. Anything you look on a fire escape, just write repair it, paint it, test it. Because they're going to give you a call and say what? Repair what? You said, I don't know. You have to get a professional, design professional to tell me what needs to be fixed. And he goes, okay. And can I paint it? He goes, well, you can, but the EPA now says anything older than 1978 has lead on it, so make sure it doesn't have no lead. Otherwise, you need to have an EPA renovator's license to touch it because of the lead. And then the last word is test. What's the word test mean?
Just that.
It's just that. Are we going to load test this thing, or are we going to certify this thing? Do you guys want opinions on 75-year-old grandma? Or you guys want load tests or certifications, guarantees, assertions that that thing is going to be safe for tenants and firemen? So we're going to talk about where the code already says that. You may not know that the code already says that. We're going to talk about the 3 codes. The building code, the fire code, and the NFPA, and how they all say the same thing. And we're going to throw OSHA in here to tell you how OSHA is saying something about fire escapes that I didn't know until about a month ago when I was doing a class in Philadelphia, and I tripped over it, an OSHA code that says all buildings under repair or alterations must have 2 certified means of egress at all times. Otherwise, because the fire escape usually is the last thing you touch on that $50 million renovation, right? Now it's got to be the first. Otherwise, you have to put a stair tower. If you want to make the fire escape last, you got to put a stair tower so that you, as an employee, can walk in and walk out because they're meeting the OSHA requirement. But so is every electrician, every plumber, every contractor in that building. He too has 2 means out. So, a couple of websites you can go to. Is the National Firescape Association.org. You can go to firescapeservices.com, which has a lot of information about how we repair fire escapes. As far as engineering, it's firescapeengineers.com. You can also go on YouTube and just start typing in fire escape repair, fire escape load testing, and you're going to see. You believe we're the only ones with videos out there? There's nobody else with a fire escape video out there. So, but it's a great place to go learn. So, especially on Fire Escape Academy, you want to see a bunch of other guys running around and having complaints about their fire escape? Now, where you're going to be amazed that you think you only have a small number of fire escapes, but you have thousands of them. Because every mansion that got turned into a condo, guess where they put the fire escape? The front or the back? Every motel that has all these external staircases, that's a fire escape. Every house that turned from a single family into a 2 or 3 family dwelling, guess what they used to satisfy the code for egress? Fire escape. So after a while, you're going to start looking at things because the code, the International Building Code, is very simple. All exterior steel or wooden stairs. Do you guys know any exterior steel or wooden stairs? Bridges, balconies, and fire escapes must be examined. So we're just touching the tip of the iceberg, which is we're going to play with fire escapes to learn our stuff, but guess what you're going to go after? You're going to go after all external steel or wooden stairs. Otherwise, if they don't want those examined, what do they have to do? Enclose them. Then it becomes somebody else's inspection, doesn't it? So let me put on the show. But again, if you ever want to get a chance, just go on to YouTube, type in Fire Escape Academy. And I'll, before I start doing the slide, does anybody have any questions? History or any one particular question or 2 questions that they may have?
First of all, come back, you said the definition of a fire escape, you said it could be wooden or metal, there's stairways, but they could be ladders too, right?
Right.
Okay.
So as far as the history of fire escapes, you can have a fire escape made out of wood if it matches the building type. So if I have a wood structure, I can put a wood fire escape on there, but it's got to meet the thickness requirement of 2 inches overall. Otherwise, the traditional fire escape is metal. But if I have a a building that is a brick or metal building, I can't put a wood structure on it. I have to have a metal fire escape on it. The history of fire escapes, you can see fire escapes dating back to Washington DC into the 1850s. They started putting, basically, waiting balconies was a lot of what they used. Now, then they started doing row houses with single stairs inside. When enough people died, they started basically creating crossover balconies, crossing a firewall, so you leave your apartment and you go into somebody else's apartment by kicking in their window and vice versa. Then that started becoming a problem, so they said, okay, let's put on crossover balconies and put ladders on them. But then ladders became a problem because not everybody could work with a ladder, or firemen could work with a ladder. They said, okay, balconies and staircases. Then it became a combination of balconies, staircases, and ladders. Now, they outlawed ladders. You can't build a fire escape today with a ladder. Unless unless you get the authority, it's over a sidewalk. So there's in certain codes, when you're building, you can't build a brand new fire escape from the ground. So if I have a building that I'm digging a hole in the ground, no fire escape's going to be put on it. But if I have a pre-existing structure, I can use fire escapes to satisfy that code once I've exhausted putting the staircase inside. So they're always going to be pushed to put it on the inside, but once you've exhausted on this mansion, because it has a central stair, and you got 4 condos going, the answer is going to be a metal staircase on the back. The metal staircase is not going to come out a window unless you authorize it. It's going to come out of a door. The stair is going to go into a balcony, and then it's going to go down a set of stairs. Normally, the set of stairs for a fire escape is 8 and 8 rise and run, 24 inches wide minimum. But when you start making it part of a means of egress, it's going to be 36 inches wide or greater, 7-11 rise and run, all the way to the ground. So you sort of cross the external stair and fire escape thing many, many times, but on a case-by-case basis you'll do it. So that's what they started building fire escapes. Around 1930, 1940, they said, you know what, this is the stupidest thing we've ever done, is put these fire escapes outside. So they stopped fire escapes altogether. So all of a sudden, at that time, somebody says, hey, what are we going to do with all these existing fire escapes? And somebody in the 30s and the 40s said, listen, by the year 2000, every one of these buildings is going to be on the ground. We're going to be riding in spaceships, and we're going to have floating cities. But in the meantime, as I was telling someone else here, they invented duct tape, bubble gum, paper clips, and string to hold these buildings together. And that's what you have the problem now. They were not supposed to make it this far. So back then, when you read your codes, there's codes on how to build a perfect fire escape. There's not one code description on how to properly repair and paint it, because they didn't expect it to be here. So now we're faced with a situation where grandma's 75 years old, and you go into the code, and there's no code there on how to maintain it. So, but there is code. We're going to show you what the code is, and a lot of times we don't need to change the state codes. They're already generally saying what needs to be done there. The repairs and procedures and guidelines, the interpretation of the codes need to be nationalized so that everybody understands what the hell those 2 paragraphs meant. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Got it? Any other question about the history? So remember, you can't build a brand new fire escape today ever if you dig a hole in the ground and put up a brand new building. But every mansion, every factory, everything you have, every garage, if somebody's going to start living in it, you've got a fire escape coming. Because that is the answer if you can't put a staircase inside. You can fight it, but you're going to lose. Because the fire escape is the answer when you've exhausted all other means of putting it in an internal stair. So these metal things are going to be around for a while. Got it?
Seems back in the 20s, and the building codes were probably just jurisdictional requirements. There wasn't anything national, but
I think it was the Uniform Building Code was what was sort of floating around back then, but then, like anything else, they did build, just so you know, a majority of all the fire escapes in the nation are built under the Uniform Building Code, and they're built rock solid. They're overbuilt. So the fact that you still have a lot of them standing up today is because they were crazily built. They're built like a big bumblebee, and I'm saying they're just heavy in every direction. What they can't handle is the connection deterioration. So it's not the flats or the bars or the seat channels that are rotting. It's where the 2 meet, and the birds poo there, and the leaves land there, and the wind drops there, and it's rust. Guaranteed. All right. So this is because of the class. Again, a lot of times this is a 2, 4, or 6 hour class. I'm going to rapid fire through a lot of these photographs because I got to make it about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. I can stay afterwards and answer anybody's questions. I'd like to get everybody's cards. We can get you on our video list. So every time we have a new video come out, you'll automatically get it so you can get it to your guys. And I'll have Katie, our director, basically get you already lists of this, and this will be a class. So if you leave me your card, this class, along with some other footage on the back end of other downtown walkarounds, including with Tim Knorr, you know, we walked around LA. So are we represented here from the entire, or just Southern California? Southern? Okay, so we're also going to talk about Reg 4. Anybody here from LA in Reg 4? Perfect. So we're going to talk about that also, and what they cover only. So if you guys want to copy something, Reg 4 already exists. Okay? We're going to talk about the positives and the negatives of what they're covering only and what the rest of the country is covering. So actually, let me take you one back here. Fire escapes are built to 100 pounds per square foot, and here's the reason why. Man, this is too fast. Either that or I'm just being too... See all those guys? I mean, it's an old picture. Do you see how many guys are sitting on that fire escape? If each one of those guys weighs 300 pounds, a typical 5x5 platform is 25 square feet. Times 100 pounds, that can take 2,500 pounds of weight, okay? If you got a typical 300-pound man with all this gear on, how many guys can you fit in a 5x5 square? Can you fit 5 of them? If they're really hugging tight, right? That's only 1,500 pounds if they all weigh 300 pounds apiece. How many tenants can I get there if everyone weighed, 150 pounds? Can I get 10 tenants in a 5x5? Well, that's only 1,500 pounds. I still got an extra 1,000 pounds to go. So these things are built to take the weight, and they're overbuilt. The problem is, as soon as the connection lets go, I don't care how you built it. I don't care how strong the beam is. It means nothing. If the fastener gives way, the rivet gives way, she's coming down. And that's our problem today. It's not that the fire escapes are our problem. The fasteners holding the fire escapes in the air and fastening it back to the building is what we're going to question today. And as soon as you fix those, what's going to happen to my thick C channel, my thick angle, and my thick beam that's still there, and it's 100 years old? Any questions with that? It's good. It's a fastener. Today it's a connection class that we're going to have, okay? All right, take a look at the 3 codes. The International Fire Code. Your part, when you look at it, the time you order a test, it says right at the end, depending on the structural condition, a load test shall be conducted. So who determines that a load test might be ordered? Is it the engineer that you're dealing with, or is it you that you're sitting there speaking with looking at this fire escape, and all of a sudden you're not satisfied? So depending on the structural condition, can you order a load test?
Sure.
NFPA says the clearest. The authority having jurisdiction shall be permitted to approve any existing fire escape stair that has been shown by load test or other satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength. So isn't that depending upon structural condition, which is satisfactory evidence to have adequate strength, you can order a load test? Well, the NFPA says the same thing as the International Fire Code. Now let's take a look at the building code. Testing and certification. All exterior fire escape systems shall be examined or tested, which means spot prepared and then load tested, or certified for structural adequacy and safety, and usually it's every 5 years. Otherwise, it's maintained at all times. So isn't this, the word examined or tested mean load tested? Or certified? What's certified mean? Isn't certified mean that you have a definition of what satisfactory evidence of strength is? So all we're going to talk about today is what is this evidence? Because this is not a load test class. Load test costs anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 or more per story. You can easily blow 10, 20 grand on a fire escape load test, buys no bolts, buys no paint, and anybody knows what a passing grade looks like on those things, right? You know what a fail grade looks like on one of those things? It's on the ground, and we have to put it back up if we didn't crush anybody. So this is not a load test class. This is a class to say that we're really about the other evidence of strength. And what's that mean on grandma that she's 75 years old? Replace all the joints. As soon as you deal with all the fasteners. Now, here's why when I say you're supposed to, this was already supposed to have happened. Let's take a typical building that was built from in its 25th to 50th birthday. Did they take out all the windows and put new windows in already on that building? Did they take out the roof and put in a new roof already on that building in its 25th to 50th birthday? Did they take out all the plumbing and put in new plumbing? Did they take out all the electric and put in new electrical? So they took out everything. They've repointed. They've put in a new heating system in the 25th to 50th birthday. Guess what they never got? They never got a maintenance on the fire escape, which means this thick metal fire escape never got its fasteners replaced. Because as soon as you put new fasteners on a fire escape, you reset the clock on it. That's other evidence of strength. So when I examine a fire escape, if I see all new bolts, I'm not going to come to you with a load test problem. I'm going to come to you with evidence that says, hey, they changed all these bolts 10 years ago. She's good. They sealed all the joints with silicone, and here's all the pictures, and here's all the evidence. This thing is rock solid. I'm also going to talk about that if you spot repair a fire escape and you leave behind fasteners, rivets, is there any guarantee on those 50 to 75-year-old fasteners and square head bolts? You can get a guarantee as soon as you load test it, but if I take all those out anyway, even if they don't need it, can I give you other evidence of strength as the 3 codes suggest? So we're talking about refurbishment. You take a 50, 75-year-old fire escape, which should have been changed, should have had all its hardware changed every 25 years, in its 50th birthday, you're already in 75 years, so guess what land we're in? We're in hand grenade land, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things happening here, so let's... Oh, this is a couple of news stories. This one is in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Just happened not even a year ago. Oh, I'm gonna have to turn on the mics, turn on the speakers there. Hold on a second.
More paint than rust. What other issues? They have a gold fire escape. By the way, is this cantilever perfectly balanced or not? Look at that chain. Tight?
Pretty slack. Yeah, it's slack.
So what do you say?
It could be real 50 pounds.
1 pound? This could be...
What's happening was it was playing the All right, so this happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
Well, about 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
Here's the problem. They let 50 people get back into a building that the fire escapes didn't let them out in the first place. Right? Anybody see that child, that 8-year-old child, basically on a ladder 12 feet off the ground? What's the fireman down below telling that child to do? Right? So here you have, and this is, you got a lot of these complexes here that are, 50 units, and what do they have as a means of egress off of them? Fire escapes. Now, these guys got there, there's a fire, full fire going on. Is this a firefight or a rescue mission? Right off the bat. How much valuable time is lost before you can actually lose the building trying to get people off a fire escape? Fire escapes are made for self-evacuation. They're not made for you to go there and help people off. You get off of them by yourself. You're supposed to use them in case you need to get into the building, or in case all hell breaks loose. What do you use the fire escapes for? You to get out of the building. But fire escapes were never made for you to go there and handhold people down the fire escape. 50 people. 6 months later is when we got called in to go inspect this fire escape. It was a death trap 6 months later. 6 months after that, it still wasn't being fixed. Why? It's one of those It's not that nobody wants to do anything about it, it's just that there's no system out there built for people to react to a fire escape. Because if you have no second means of egress in any building, can you close the building down? They don't have two means of egress here. And after my examination, then we went and looked at all the fire escapes, which is about a dozen of them. They still didn't have any second means of egress. They had a lot of collapsing treads and a lot of, why didn't the fire department close them down?
Where'd it go?
So here's one of the things, we have a lot of things that you want to do. That's why I say, if you're going to do something overnight, nope. You're going to do something over the next 5 years? Yes. Based on what? Safety, right? So this has to be an awareness program that as we go through this awareness program, you're really out there to find and identify, like Seattle, like Tacoma, like Portland, and put a tag on your fire escape. So let's talk about a little bit what's on here that are some great ideas that never were as of 5 years ago, that we created, we helped create, or we invented. So it's all going to get covered in the class today. So let's take a look at here. This is the help of a state inspector that says, you don't need to change the law, you need to basically write what's called departmental and procedures and guidelines. And as long as you don't mention anybody's name, and as long as you follow you explain what the code is about, you generalize and say, here's what this department would like you to see. So if you read the left side, what you have is, if you're going to inspect this, so who's an inspector? A structural engineer, a registered architect, or a fire escape engineer, somebody that's licensed. There's only 2 licenses in the country. Reg 4 lets us examine escape assemblies, fire escape assemblies. And out of Boston, we have a G3 license from the building department that lets you sign off on fire escapes. I sign all of Harvard University's fire escapes, and I'm not a structural engineer. But there's only 2 licenses. So here is if you're going to examine the fire escape, you read this generalized statement there, that's how your engineer or your design professional has to behave. Now, if you're going to repair the fire escape, well, read the middle one. It tells you what the repair vendor, what kind of guidelines we're looking for. And it kind of tells him that you're not in charge, dude. The engineer of record is going to be in charge telling you what to fix. Because he's going to try to satisfy 2 things. He's going to either spot repair this thing and load test it and give you the criteria for the load test, or he's trying to avoid the load test at all costs and doing what to the fire escape? Full refurb, which satisfies what? Certification, which should have been done when? In its 25th to 50th birthday. And then painting. The EPA stepped in and helped us out and said, what? You got lead. What can't you do to lead? Put a flame on it. So a welding rod, can a welding rod touch a fire escape anymore? No. And that used to be the Band-Aid, the dirty Band-Aid that you were getting. No, 98% of all the fire escapes in the United States are bolted connection fire escapes. Because they heat up, they do this. They cool down, they do this. As soon as you weld them, guess what happens? They start tearing welds and tearing welds. That's why most fire escapes are bolted connections, they're not welded. So, but when you get somebody wants to make a quick $3,000 on a client, and there's rust in the connection, what do? Clean the connection or rust it shut? I mean, weld it shut. Weld it shut. But now the EPA says, can you weld on a fire escape that has lead? So you're going to see a lot of less hot permits because you can't even weld on a fire escape. And the way you have to paint it, you have to wear your welded white suit, the glove, the mask, put the plastic downstairs, collect all the chips, properly dispose. Everybody has to get their EPA renovator's license. So there's only 3 things done to a fire escape. You examine it, you repair it, you paint it. Okay, so we're going to cover that now. If you keep going on, we're going to talk about OSHA. We're going to talk about lead safe. This is a Seattle confidence test. We designed this confidence test. If you go to seattle.org or seattle.gov and you go to their fire prevention, they have not just this confidence test, they have confidence tests that they've created for sprinklers, alarms, and they have a fire escape confidence test. Guess what it's not? It's not an opinion letter. It says yes, no. It says yes, no, like, I've looked at all the connections, there is no rust in any of the connections. I have checked the ladders, I have checked this, I have checked that. Reg 4 just came up with this. We submitted this to Darryl. Any of you guys know Darryl? We submitted to Darryl our complete package for the past 3 to 5 years we've submitted, but they finally came out, I think it's in the past year, with a checklist. The only thing on that checklist, it's only for, and I feature the checklist here too, It's only for the ladders, because that's one of the things. They haven't introduced a 5-year inspection program for the whole system. So one of the flaws in Reg 4 is that they are only examining really the ladder. This new check system is asking them to kind of give an opinion on the rest of the system, but it's, I think without proper training, a lot of these people don't really know what to look for on the whole system, and they're trying to incorporate bringing in a structural engineer. San Francisco does the yearly ladder inspections, but they have a 5-year rule up in San Fran. That has to be done by a design professional. Okay? In Seattle, if you can see here, this is a model that is used. If you look at it, this is all yes, no questions that cover every aspect of the fire escape, from the general, which is painting and windows and doors, to the structural, including the unknown of how is it tied back into the building. And this must be all filled out when you do an inspection. The initial inspection gets one of these filled out, and then when you do the final, it's the same one that gets filled out. But you must submit a report with this. So here's an industry standard documentation. The one thing we like, you see the one over here? This is Tacoma. Tacoma came out with a yearly inspection. And you know who that's for? For the owners. And look at the 3 questions they asked for the owners. Are the bolts and supports damaged or rusted? Is the paint in good condition? And is all the moving parts, such as the ladders and the doors, in good order? So for your yearly inspection, can you imagine going to a building, speaking with a maintenance manager there, and saying, hey, I want to confirm that your fire escape is in good order. So where do you stand? You stand on the sidewalk. Where does the guy start? He starts on the roof. What's he climb over? The gooseneck. What's he come down? The stairs. What's he release? The cantilever or the ladder? And then does what? Hands you this document that he signs. So this is the yearly, so that it keeps the owner in tune. But the main one is done by a design professional. It's the 5-year. So we help them get that started. With today's digital technology, guys, you don't have to go see a fire escape. You can have the report sent to you digitally. Now, this is a nice fancy report. You don't have to have. You can have 9 per page, 4 per page. You can have 16 per page. As long as you get a sense of that fire escape, which is 8 miles away, of what's wrong with it, you can have a decision. You can be involved with the engineer or the architect associated with the inspection. Oh, and by the way, in a lot of the examinations, there's 2 ways for you to have the engineer of record identify what needs to be done. He buys a $2 can of paint at Home Depot, and he finger paints it for dummies. Because if you write a 1/2-inch thick book of, and drawings, you know how much money you're going to spend to draw exactly what bolt you need to change? And the blue-collar guy that's going to do the work, you think he's got time to read that 1/2-inch thick piece of paper? So they're point and shoot. You just mark. So the engineer of record should identify all the violations to make it idiot-proof. But then this includes in a load test, because if it's going to be a refurb and you're trying to get other evidence of strength, do you need to finger paint any of this stuff, or is everything going to get changed anyway? Every fastener is going to get done. So do you need to finger paint it? He's trying to avoid the load test. And that's the one thing we're going to talk about today. If somebody spot repairs a fire escape under your watch, what are you automatically going to order? That the 3 code says you can. Load test. Because have they satisfied the other evidence of strength? Have they left behind for you some nice 50, 75, 100-year-old rivets? Square head bolts? And you want assurances, right? So you order a load test. Guess what kind of liability you have after it passes a load test? So there was a spot repair, and there was a load test. What kind of liability do we have for anybody? None. The engineer's off because he performed what the law said. The owner's off because he did what the law said. Right? The fire department is off because you ordered a load test and it was done, and so 2 years later the thing collapses to the ground. What do you have? An investigation. Something else occurred. But did it fall on the day of the load test? Now you refurbish it 100% today, and everybody signs off on it. And a year later, something gives way. What do you have? A bolt sheared. What do you have? A product malfunction. Who do you sue? The bolt. Because did you do everything that the law said? You did. You refurbished it. The bolt failed. So who's everybody suing? The bolt. Let's take a look at the next page. Every city has over 35,000 cubic. Do you guys require a engineer oversight or a design professional oversight? So in your codes, you already have a trigger in there that says it doesn't really apply to the residential unless they're a big, huge, over 35,000. But as soon as you get into something that is commercial, it starts with a design professional. It's already in your codes. So this is a typical initial and final affidavit stating that there's permits, that there's all kinds of oversight going on that. So those already exist in everybody's state codes. Repair procedures and guidelines. It's pretty simple. Open the connection, remove the rust, put a new bolt. That's the end of your training for repairs. That's it. Because if it's welded, what are we going to do if it's welded? Well, there's only two things you can do on any welded connection. I got to x-ray it, or I got to load test it. But if I take a beautifully welded fire escape and I put a bolt through a welded connection, have I just nullified that weld? So now it becomes a secondary. Have I given you other evidence of strength on this perfectly welded fire escape? That if it's going to fail on you, does it fail from the outside in or the inside out? Inside out. You'll never see it. Put a bolt in it, what happens? You don't care. You still have to seal the welded joint because I'll tell you that thing will still accumulate water and it'll rust out. This is a Boston certificate. This is all I still sign till this day. Ready? All it says, right in the middle of the page, it says right there, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape egress component is in conformity with the Mass Building Code. Is that a fact or an opinion? Opinion that day. This is still what Boston uses. Now, what you have here, behind here, is one of our model cities, Lowell. They order load tests. They order full refurbishments. So remember everybody says, why don't you start here and then, come down? We're surrounding the castle because we're getting more effect in smaller cities saying, hey, I'm going to do something about this. I can't wait for the state or somebody higher than me to come and tell me what to do. I've got problems here and I want to get these fire escapes under control. Got it? This is how all fire escapes are built. It hasn't changed in 100 years. So we're going to cover that today. Every fire escape must be complete to grade. So you can't just get on a roof. You must have a catwalk system on a roof. And when you have these ladders that end 7, 8, or 10 feet off the ground, is it legal? Must be all the way to grade. So a lot of times these ladders that were 8 to 10 feet off the ground, that's only half the building code. In the code, when it was built 30, 40, 50 years ago, it said, now you must continue it to the ground with a fold-out ladder, with a drop ladder, but people sort of stole the code and said, oh, it says I can have it up to 8 feet off the ground. So no longer can you have ladders basically stop and let grandma jump 7 feet. It's not going to happen. And look at this great thing. Ready? In Seattle, every fire escape has a tag. A white tag that says what? It has no deficiencies. A white tag that also says what? When it was inspected. When's the next 5-year inspection? If the fire escape has been examined and it has problems, it gets a yellow tag. If the fire escape is examined and it has falling treads and it's dangerous, it gets a red tag. And they start talking about closing the building, a second means of egress. So let's cover that right now. If you get to a building right now and there's a financial distress situation going on, and the fire escape needs $25,000 that somebody doesn't have, you know what the quick answer is for that building right away to keep the building occupied and not have to put the orphan children in another hotel somewhere that nobody can afford? Scaffolding. Permanent OSHA compliant scaffolding with full sets of stairs in there, like they use in construction sites to basically hold the button for the next 30 days. While you figure out what's going on with that building. Are you going to empty it? You can do your fire watches, so it's a combination of many things, but a lot of times a staircase, an OSHA compliant staircase installed by a scaffolding company will sometimes buy you a little time when you have a situation. Otherwise, if the guy got plenty of money and he doesn't want to do anything with a fire escape and he doesn't have a second means of egress, what does he have under the fire code? Eminent hazard? Okay, so, but you guys want to speak with somebody, you want to find, so 5 years they're still working with this. So as we start going out and identifying fire escapes, what do you want to get on? Tags. Their tags are 11 by 19. 7 to 10 feet off the ground, permanently affixed to the fire escape. The tags that I'm showing you here are 8.5 by 11s. You can have them plastic, and then you basically zip tie them to the fire escapes. So over the next 5 years, as you go along and you start identifying these fire escapes, are you really going to be repairing them right away, or you just want to find out what condition they are in the present form? Because who really needs to know what condition a fire escape is when you get there? The fireman, right? If he gets there and there's a fire escape that's got a yellow tag, is he going to get on it? If it's got a red tag, is he going to get on it? If it's got a white tag, is he going to get on it? So as you start to not worry about the political side of it, as we start identifying where these fire escapes are, which is part of your pre-plans. How many guys here I heard pre-plans earlier today that you guys are starting to really deal with pre-plans and get back on those things? So can pre-planning be whether or not the fire escape has a tag or not? Is it certifiable or not? Can that be one of your triggers that as you do every pre-plan, you ask for a current certification of that fire escape? And since it doesn't have one, you identify it on the pre-plan that when you guys get there, don't get on the fire escape, it has nothing? Or is it better for us to have a tag there so that anybody who didn't get the memo gets there, they see the tag, and they don't get on the fire escape? Well, that's what Seattle did. Got it? So now, you guys remember in 2003, the Station Night fire in Rhode Island? We got called by the news.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him,
Oh, I was scared to death.
but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes, rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So then over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files,
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
What came of it?
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him,
I was scared to death.
but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes, rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So that over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the
Correct.
fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files,
But there's no fire escape certification.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.
Quick question. Who has written a fire escape violation in the past year? Two. In the whole year, there's only 2 violations that have been written up. Now, I did that in Washington, D.C. Same kind of response. In Philadelphia, same response. What it is, you can write the violation, you just don't know how to cure it. You can write the violation, you don't know what code to basically address to it. And a lot of times after you write the violation, the owner comes back to you and says, I'm calling around, nobody wants to touch this, nobody knows what to do. So what do you do when you write violations that people can't cure? Stop writing violations. All right. So with that was in 2003 that happened. Let me tell you some of the triggers. Write this down. This is going to be very helpful. What they did in Boston to immediately get this on a automatic is every building permit ever issued, to close the permit, you need a copy of your current certification. So that's what the building department did. To basically make it, they should have made it a checklist item. So you can issue a permit, but to close the permit, guess what you need? A copy of the certification, a 5-year certification. So if you have multiple permits throughout the year, guess what you use? You use the same certificate. You don't have to get a new one. It's good for 5 years. Smoke detector sign-offs, so people can occupy a building. Guess what you have to have with that as a checklist item? Because if the smoke goes off, guess what you're going to run to? So if they don't have one, you don't stop the process. You sign off their smokes. But now you've got a checklist item there that says, what don't they have? They don't have a fire escape affidavit. So smoke detectors, sprinkler systems. When they submit their yearly sprinkler test, is it yearly or 3 years or 5? Whatever their cycle is, what should a sprinkler system include as part, and again, it's just a checklist item, and it'll keep bringing fire escapes to the forefront. Just a checklist item asking for a copy. Are you ordering a test? You're asking for a copy of something they're already supposed to have. So there's 3 things so that you don't change anything in the routine of your business and your activities. You're not adding any more, but your building department now will not close a permit without a current certificate. Your fire department will not sign off a smoke, will sign off a smoke, but it has a check, it has to have an attachment to it, which is the smoke detector, and your sprinkler system. Any other tests you guys can think of that would tie in with the fire escapes?
You know, in California, I think there'd be a problem, and I at least know in my jurisdiction, I got a feeling that if you're looking for a sprinkler certification, you try and throw a fire escape certification onto that, you're going to meet with confrontation. They're going to take that to the city fathers. And the city fathers are going to say, back up. You want a sprinkler test or you want a fire escape test?
Without ordering a test.
Don't combine the two.
No, we're not ordering a test. We're asking for a copy. These are just suggestions. So politics and everything else you guys are going to run into, I'm just making suggestions of what Boston did. Because Boston, with the permit, they just closed the permit. They still got to close the permit. They just want a copy of the certification. They didn't order a certification. They want a copy of what should already be there. On the smoke sign off, same thing. You're not ordering one. You're asking for a copy. You still complete. You still do your. You still sign off. You still finish whatever you're going to do. It's just it's an internal trigger for yourself saying, hey, this fire escape has never been. So I got good smokes and I got good sprinkler, but the fire escape is garbage. And now I know because I asked for a copy because it's just one of my questions. So you still close it. You still accept the sprinkler test. You still accept the sprinkler. I mean the smoke sign off. But now you've got an internal trigger that says, hey, there's no fire escape affidavit ever on this thing. Got it? Let's take a look at OSHA. 1910.37, write that down. Exit routes must be maintained during construction, repairs, and alterations. During repairs and alterations, employees must not occupy a workplace unless the exit routes required by the subpart are available and the existing fire protections are maintained, or until alternate fire protection is furnished that provides an equivalent level of safety. So, you got this nice building, 5-story, they just gutted it, and they got electricians and plumbers and everybody in there, and there's a nice fire escape that they're going to do when? Beginning or the end? So what do you tell them? You got to do it now. They say, I don't want to do it now. You say, no problem, who has to come in now? No, scaffolding company has to come in and do what? Put up a temporary stair tower and what? Continue. But now fire escapes, and I tripped over this while I was doing my class to Philadelphia. So 1910.37. So now you have 4 codes that help you basically reinforce what about fire escapes? That they need to be maintained, they need. So can you go into a building that only has one means of egress as an employee of the city? You understand? So this starts with you, because you can't go in there and examine and inspect. And it ends with the lonely electrician or the lonely plumber or the sheetrock guy, because he's not supposed to be in that building because the OSHA said so. And again, I didn't know, I just tripped over this year because I was doing some research and I tripped over this and I said, oh my God.
I don't think, does OSHA require 2 means of egress at all times for everything?
This is, everything in the, well, you just told me about the basement. You told me about that basement thing.
No, there's lots of things, rooms that need 2 exits, but I'm curious because I don't see that part of it. I would assume it says in these areas that need 2 exits, they have to be maintained.
But no, there's 2 exits is everywhere.
John,
No.
I do have some.
It's not, it depends on the number of people, square footage.
Well, building code wise, I'm just wondering,
Yeah,
OSHA.
I'm going building code wise is that every occupied space, residential, commercial?
No.
Up to
No,
49
you
people
can
you
have a
can
retail
want.
space or an office building with just a front door. Depends on the size of it, how many people are gonna be in there.
On one level or several levels?
It has requirements for, if you have a 2nd story, there's a travel distance requirement, you have to stay under number of people, and how it's protected. So
It's just the way I read it, it's saying, there must be a list with this that says, in these places you need 2 exits. And you're right, for most of these commercial things, you need 2 exits.
Right.
But there's a subset that you only probably need 1.
And just so you know, there is some crazy, in New Jersey, I was doing one of these developments of senior citizens. They all had single-family homes, then a lot of them had on this hill, and there was a cascading hill on the backside. The law there is as long as the window is no more than 16 feet off the ground, that's considered their second means of egress. And so I understand what you're saying. I'm not here to fight code or say, but there's some crazy stuff out there. But the rule of law is the rule. She'll roll down the hill. And so the rules. There's a lot of wacky rules out there, but the norm is that you need 2 means of egress at all times in case your primary means gets wiped out. And a lot of this really applies to a lot of the commercial stuff out there.
I think you have to look at that in a more general, so it says exit routes are required to be maintained. And if the code only requires a single exit route, then that's defined for you. But again, if it's an exit route, it still has to be maintained.
Exactly.
Versus if you have to have 2 or more means of egress, then that also has to be maintained.
Right.
So look at it in a more general.
Right, and that's
aspect.
exactly, and that's its title. You know, when you look at its title.
The funny thing, you know
But
what?
it says exit routes, so is it one route or multiple routes? Again,
One
I
or
just
more.
present what I have here, but this helps you guys in helping get fire escapes to be the first thing people deal with, not the last thing. Because in case there's a fire on a building that's being renovated, and a lot of fires happen in buildings during the renovation process. And where do these guys go if the renovation process in a building is they have a central core stairway that everybody's going to try to come down? That's the chimney. That's the worst place on any fire situation. They only got fire escapes to go to, and if the fire escapes are not maintained, then a lot of these guys are swapping windows out on the fire escape, painting the outside of the structure on the fire escape. They're cementing or recaulking all on this fire escape that was never certified to begin with. So here's the 1031 testing and maintenance. All two-way communications systems for area of refuge shall be inspected and tested on a yearly basis to verify that all components are operational. When required, The tests shall be conducted in the presence of the fire code official. So that's your international building code. What's that mean, this testing?
That particular two-way communication, that's your firefighter phones in a building.
Then why is it other means of egress?
Because that's where you find it, so that you make sure when you have multiple floors and you're requiring that it's provided for.
Yeah,
And this is also Seattle, and we don't know if they've amended this particular portion or if it's base code.
Well, I went and did some research on the California code, because you guys are based off the, 2012 now?
Well, we're going to be.
Yeah, and that's what it says there too.
Yeah, those are refugee areas in a building that they're supposed to be able to talk to the fire department and say, we're in wheelchairs, come and get us.
Yeah.
Those are what that.
I know, so where's the maintenance requirement here?
The California fire code is just what you got from him when you started this thing.
Yeah.
The 1104.16.7.
Oh, that's just the maintenance, yeah.
The fire escape shall be kept clear and unobstructed at all times and shall be maintained in good working order. When?
At
all
There's
times.
nothing here about testing.
Right. Well, in LA, they have the yearly, on the reg 4, they have to examine the ladders every year.
There may be more stuff in that building code. I just pulled that out of the
Oh, I
fire
know.
code.
This
is just, that portion I'm showing is just focused on existing buildings, and there's probably other sections.
Well, related to fire escape, there's even less. So that's the big issue that we have here. So here you have what Seattle did. They basically have a process. So you can either reinvent the wheel, or you can call certain people that have been doing things related. So Seattle has done a lot, including putting their confidence tests online. Portland went and did a code change on the fire code to include the tags, a description of what the repairs are. I'm going to show you that right now. So here's the Seattle, the latest, greatest Seattle. When you go online, this is what you're going to find. So copy and paste. You can download this in PDF or Word. Then all you do is just go up and take out the word Seattle and put your city in there. There you have an industry standard document put out by a fire department. Or you can just go and copy their questions and make up your own. We can also do it for you. So this is what occurred that made, when you have a fire escape code that says it must be maintained at all times, what happens? People forget about it, people go to sleep, and this is what occurred. So this is exactly what occurred, because our code was must be maintained at all times. And then they changed the code after this incident so that it was every 5 years. Then they went to sleep again. Now here's some live load testing that I'm gonna now start moving pretty quickly. In Boston, a girl fell 5 stories to her death into this, because she and her boyfriend were basically, this is on a hill, so this 5-story next to this 5-story feeds their roof that had a beautiful deck on. So what do? In the middle of the night after you come back from drinking and partying? Go hang out on the deck, the phone rings, she decides to go get it. What happens if she doesn't see that the rail is missing on the crossover back to her window? This is a fire escape that the owner decided to fix the roof himself, him and his sons. So like a great mechanic, they took out all the bolts, lifted the fire escape, did all the roofing underneath, and there was 3 of them. There's a fire escape over there, fire escape here, and then the fire escape that I'm taking the picture from. And at the end, he had bolts left over, which means what? This fire escape, there was 5 people on this fire escape, when it only fell about 10 feet. It used to be right there on the roof, and it fell to another roof just below, because this is actually a 3-story. So it only fell 10, but 5 people. There was a buyer, a seller, the 2 real estate agents, plus one of the condo trustees was on this thing. Nobody died. The first thing you do with your cell phone is call who? After everybody got hurt, who's the first person you make a call to?
Lawyer.
Lawyer. You ask him to do what?
Sue.
Call the fire department? And call an ambulance? So that's what they felt. So again, there's an Iowa case. Again, I've been an expert witness on a couple of cases. In New York City, this is one that I'm an expert witness in Iowa. The owner that owns like 30, 40 of these houses, and he puts kids in there, about 20, 30 kids living in these houses. His guys needed to do some work on the window over there. And so what he did is they took the fire escape off that used to be through bolted, and they put the fire escape back on, and instead of through bolting it back in, they lag screwed it back into the same through bolt hole. So a guy, it was 2 guys and a girl were on top there, watching fireworks on 4th of July, and then it fell. From there, hit the roof, hit the ground, that's their blood. See this, see that screw? That was, this is almost like, you know, a fire escape CSI. It was about 8 blocks away in a field. They threw all the fire escape there because the lawyers had to come back and do an investigation. This thing was in the middle of a field, and the screw that they used to put in was still in there. And this is us walking around. This is us walking around in a field where they threw all the pieces.
This looks like the leg of the staircase.
Like, how did this thing fall off? It was actually, they carried the bolt all the way to this field. No, they brought us there. We're like, okay, where's the fire escape? We investigate. Oh, I got it in the secure place. Do you mind, gentlemen? Like 8 blocks away was in the field that the guy over there just threw in the field. So this is us with a bunch of lawyers, you know, walking around and we did the investigation. It was kind of funny, you know, CSI. Then they put it back. They put it back not only through bolted, they put it back with a leg on it, with the 4x4 post made of metal onto the roof, not even with a pressure treated sleeper, right onto the asphalt shingles, you know what I'm saying? This thing was just a comedy of errors. So, other forms of load testing, you guys have seen this. Remember the day with no AC, where did people sleep? You remember when you have some fire rescues, you guys, for some reason, can't get somebody out the front door, where do you guys pull them out of? Through the fire escape. So there's many reasons why. How about parades? When people all come out and get on fire escapes and do what? Test the ticking time. This is all live load testing. See this guy up here? This, just so you know, it affects everybody. One of our network partners in Chicago, his dad fell 7 stories to his death, fixing a fire escape exactly like this.
Fixing it?
Fixing it. He was, you know, he just took that one bolt out the wrong way and he collapsed and he fell 7 stories in Chicago. Weddings, pictures. How about the people no smoking in the building? Guess where they smoke now? Potted plants, gardens. I got to visit the lady upstairs. Her husband uses the elevator, I use the fire escape. What do? This is where it goes. Kids studying out in the fire escape. Now let's talk about nationwide who inspects fire escapes. The code, the building code says on design professional or others acceptable to the building official, meaning if there's a license out there somewhere. So structural engineers are inspecting fire escapes, registered architects are inspecting fire escapes, fire escape engineers, which is somebody with a license, are inspecting fire escapes. Some people believe you guys inspect the fire escapes. They always tell us, hey, the inspector was just here, he found nothing wrong, he just wants you to give me a simple little paper that says he found nothing wrong. So that guy did not do an inspection. If he finds the obvious, he'll write you a violation. Now he wants you to professionally have it examined and get a report back to him what else is wrong. So fire escape inspectors, again, there's only 2 licenses, one out of Boston, one out of LA. I carry both. There's no other licenses anywhere. So this fire escape right here, pass or fail? Right?
Yeah,
So,
quick question. We had a 1916 building, we got it certified. We got some company from the East Coast to come out. Who are they? I forget, but there's very few companies that come out
yeah,
and certify
there's
that.
only a handful. There's, you know, we're the only fire escape company in the nation. Fire escape services.
Your company.
Well, what city?
I'm on it. We got an old 1916 hotel.
Yeah.
So that was you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're the only fire escape company in the nation because it's a niche market that nobody wanted. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't get a local iron worker or a local welding guy to fix the fire escape, but they do other things. So when we say we're the only fire escape company out there, it's because nobody does this, only that. So that, just to show you that it was totally forgotten. There is no fire escape companies in the nation. We're the only ones. And then because of that, there's no inspection companies in the nation. So we have fire escape engineers can only examine, certify, and load test fire escapes. And fire escape services can only repair, replace, and repaint fire escapes. But one of the reasons why we teach a lot of these classes, started the Academy and started the National Fire Escape Association, is to have a nationwide program to certify. And then I heard about the classes at the ICC, I heard about classes, the NFPA also does some classes, basically saying if you can create a program out there, because there's 1 million fire escapes out there. million on buildings that are 50, 75, 100 years old all over the nation, residential, commercial, institutional. You can get me started today, but I have enough for 1,000 years. So this is a market that needs a lot more vendors to come back in. The problem is with the vendors, if they come back in untrained, they're only going to bring a Rust-Oleum can, a paintbrush, and they're going to fix it the old way that you guys told them before, which is scrape it, paint it. What about the structural? Don't worry about it. Well, we need somebody to sign off. Well, we'll get a, what's called in the industry a stamp whore to do what? And you file it. All this is, if you receive a letter, an opinion letter from an engineer, and you just send them to Seattle, say, hey, thanks a lot for your letter, Mr. Johnson from Johnson Engineering, whatever. Thank you. Can you fill out this industry standard confidence test on that same address? And he won't sign it. So this is that loophole. You're closing up some loopholes right now. That's all it is. But you have to retrain you guys to stop writing the wrong violations. You got to start training the engineers to know what they're supposed to be looking for, so they're not selling you garbage paper. And you got to get the vendors to stop welding these rust buckets shut and start really refurbishing them correctly. And you got to get these guys who are going to paint it to not contaminate the area with all the lead paint chips that are going to come from this thing. Well, it's all in that first page. If you read the guidelines, it tells you right there how each person is supposed to act. So there's some industry standards already out there. So does this pass or fail? The secretary called me and says, I don't know, this guy who wrote me this letter, this engineer, wrote me this letter, and I don't like it. He says, fix these 4 things, and then I'll certify it. We came and did an examination because of the secretary, and we condemned the building, condemned the fire escape. By the way, this is in Fort Lee, and this used to be the Hollywood, the East Coast Hollywood of the, not the talkies, but the silent picture era, was Fort Lee, New Jersey. And this is the building where they shot all the silent movie pics was in this building. So that's gonna, but he wrote this, but guess what he has on here, on the disclaimer? I neither performed a critical examination or a load test. So this is an opinion. So here's another one in Chicago. This is for about, I think it was about 150 units on a factory complex. And I went to look at this fire escape because the guy kept telling me, I just want a paint job, I just want a paint job, I just want a paint job. Here's the engineer's report. In the engineer's report, I said, you know, I like to walk it before I give you a price on the paint job just to see if there's anything. So when I walked this thing, that the engineer said there was nothing wrong with it. Now, by the way, a lot of fire escapes, the brackets are underneath holding it up this way. This is one where the brackets come down from above diagonally and then grab the nose. These are my photographs of the brackets.
There's tar on it?
Sheared off.
It's all rotted. So it's coming from above, and then underneath there's a nut that, you know, basically holds up the nose. They're all rotted. I was pulling bolts out with my fingers and stuff. So I told the management company, what engineer? So this is not about that the engineer group doesn't know what they're doing. Fire escapes are the bastard child of egress. You punish your engineers by sending them on fire escapes. So if somebody did wrong that week, and you got fire escape duty, you guys got that duty, right? What is it, hose duty? What is it? You pick something down that fire truck that you guys got to do that, you know, you got to clean out the exhaust pipe with a Q-tip or something? Yeah. Fire escape for engineers is garbage duty. They'll send the secretary to inspect these things. Because nobody wants, it's 1,000 connections. And you make 1/6 the pay. You don't get a nice $5,000, $10,000 dollar bump on these things. If you get $1,000, $2,000 on these, you're squeezing the owner because he wants to just scrape it, paint it, because that's all he's done for 30 years. Because of who? This is the detention center. When you walk up to it, it looks pretty good. It just needs a paint job, right? These are kids 17 and younger. And when you look underneath, what do you got? Ready? Because of our testimony in a case of a firefighter in New York who fell through some stairs, which we're going to talk about, a metallurgist taught us and provided testimony that says to grow a 1/4 inch of rust, you need 25 years. Leave it alone for 25 years. give it water and air all the time, it'll grow a quarter. If you have a ½ inch, it needs 50 years to grow. Never touch it, just leave it alone, it'll grow, right? So watch. You got that much rust, and when we go up a fire escape and we start inspecting it, we bring a little 3-pound hammer. This is not a load test.
Okay, I think that's it. Let's
Okay.
get down here.
That's just so we can walk up the fire escape. Now,
And what I'll
you guys
do now
walk
is I
around
have
with
my
hammers
red-
in your belt and you ping the treads. So don't get on these fire escapes. You're not there as an examiner. You're going to be able to see. If you see square head bolts, how old is it? 50 to 75 years old. If you see rivets on it, how old is it? 75 to 100 years old. If you see hex head bolts on it, how old is it? It's good. It's 25 to 50 years old. So, can you see those from the ground? Can you see those from a door that you just opened? Can you see that from a window on any floor? Can you look out and see whether or not that thing's been maintained? And has it gone through its first cycle of refurbishment? Which happens in what year? In its 25th to 50th birthday. How old is that building that you're in right now? It's 80 years old. And you look outside and you see rivets and square heads. And what do you say to the guy? Did he pass or fail? And he goes, no, I just finished painting it. You say, what do you pull out of what trump card do you pull out? What's that nasty word that you keep in your back pocket? Load test. Great paint job, let's load test it. Before you load test, you have to pass a confidence test. Correct, so an engineer is going to give you a report that says, I've examined this perfectly painted fire escape. There is no rust in any of the connections. And she's ready for a load test. So we'll load test it. Or you're going to get a report back that says, we're not ready for the load test yet. Because even though the guy painted it, what didn't he do? He didn't remove any of the rust in any of the connections. He just threw his buddy Charlie on there and they painted it. So it looks great, but upon further examination, what am I finding? She's not ready for a load test, and that certificate I gave you 3 weeks ago, I need to take back. So how many engineers are you going to scare the pants off of when you order a load test? Because they've okayed the load test. If they gave you a certificate in your hand, and you pull out load test out of your pocket, say, that's great, this is a great piece of paper. This is your nice fancy paperwork here, says fire escape is good. This is good, I'm going to put this in the file. What day are we going to do the load test? They're like, what? Yeah, we're going to load test. This is good. This tells me that you've done your job, you've critically examined the fire escape, there is no rust in the connection, and you verified all the connections into the building, that they're satisfactory, and they're going to order, and we're ready to order a load test, as per all 3 codes. Building code, fire code, and FPA. So what day is it? 'Cause I want to witness this collapse. I mean, this, got it? So, the collapse test. See, I got to take, every now and then I got to take something. A load test or a collapse test. See, I got to take something from, I've never had that thrown out at me. Are we performing a load test or a collapse test? But you throw that at any engineer letter that you just received, you're going to scare the pants off of some of these people. They're going to pull back their letter. Because they're going to write in their own disclaimer, it says, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, and in the disclaimer it says, this was not a critical examination, nor was this a load test or destructive testing of any kind. You then say, well, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for an opinion. I need confirmation that this fire escape is good. So, yes.
For the International Fire Code and the International Building Code, are those verbatim statements out of the code?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let's read those.
Because you have the
they're right there.
code section, because I've got the 2012 section of related to fire estates with me.
So this
that
is the
language is not in there.
The Mass Building Code, which is IBC. I think are you quoting ICC or IBC?
You're stating right there, International Fire Code and International
Right.
Building Code.
So I'll give you the verbatim of the International Fire Code, the International Building Code. So Mass does the International Building Code, and it says right here. So open up to page 2. This is the exact building code for Massachusetts, which is based off it used to be 1028 points. I'm sorry, 10. Let's It's actually on there.
Is that a state amendment or is that based on the model code? Do you know?
It's based on the model code. It says right here.
Well, hold on, because while you may want to read that, my point is that you're going to read something from some other state that's based on the model code. That, what I'm professing is what you have on the screen as being International Fire Code. I've got the International Fire Code right here, and that's not what it says. So that might be that Seattle code, you know, based on the model code. So that's been amended by the Seattle, but that's not model code language.
Okay, I'm going to read you the model code language right now. So let's start with.
I got the model code language. I can read it for you, sir.
No, I understand. So let me read you on the one for the New Jersey Building Code, which is 1028.6. So do you have on your fire code? You have 1028.6, which is what I'm showing you here is the shortened version of the New Jersey Fire Code.
Well, that's my point, sir. It's the New Jersey Fire Code. They've taken the model code and amended it.
No, the New Jersey Fire Code is the exact same code as the International Fire Code. Do you have the International Fire Code there?
Yes.
Okay, let's look on testing and, you have testing and maintenance for the International?
Yeah, that would be, and we've done this twice today, 1104.16.7.
Okay, so this one, I'm basing this one off the 1028.6, which New Jersey uses the International Fire Code as their base, and these codes, they didn't modify it in any way when they brought it into theirs.
Okay, the new codes have had some number changes.
Yes, that's why, you know, even the building code went to 1,000, you know, it was, yeah. Again, so you have to bear with me as I bring in the various codes. I'm using the International Building Code, and what the number the last time I used, the International Fire Code, the number I last used.
Sometimes they moved it.
And sometimes they've already removed it. It's not even there anymore.
I had a question that had to do with the load test. What standard do the engineers are, when you say you want a load test, what's the standard that's used? Is that?
I'm going to show you a typical load test using sandbags. And with Tim Knorr, we actually did the Hope Building.
You did mine too.
Did a load test there with sandbags?
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. So that's 100 pounds per square foot. So you take a typical platform 2 by 5, that's 10 square feet, that you have to put 1,000 pounds of sandbags on there. Usually it's for half an hour or an hour depending, but you load it with 40% of the load, take all your measurements, see if there's any deflection. Then you load it with 100% of your load, take measurements, see if there's no deflection. And once it's had, and again, based on the engineer, whether he wants to do it for half hour or an hour, once you've concluded that part of that test, you then move on to the next part. So I have a couple of tests here. I have one showing us doing a building in LA, 10-story, and a building that we did for Harvard University with the sandbags. And I'd like to show it to you so you guys can see how useless it is. And Damona, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they do a full refurb and they still load tested it anyway?
Yeah, but
it was kind of one of those weird ones where the guy says, "I still want the load test." We say, "You don't need one because you've met the satisfaction, you know, the other evidence of strength." But the guy, "I still want the load test." The same thing happened on the 10-story LA. Even though we did a full refurb, the guy said, "I still want a load test." But you're gonna spend money. He goes, "I got money." So it's funny how sometimes, you know, even though you've satisfied, they still want the load test.
Well, it was a change of occupancy from a hotel, a very old hotel, to condo. And so, yeah, he wanted full liability moved on.
Yeah, they've got some special laws in the city that they passed to allow them to alter from the regular code, so it's probably covered.
So what I did is I put in here, listen, I haven't, if you guys look on the back, on where the tags are, let me read, I basically copy and pasted.
What code section did you say that was? 1028.6?
Yeah, 1028 for the International Fire Code for New Jersey, which I have, I'm just trying to find out where I put it on their sheets here. I got the entire full language on here. So the one that's on here is the IBC based code is for mass. The NFPA is the full code on the IBC. I'm just trying to find out exactly where I put the 1028.6 for the New Jersey code, which is they're based off the International Fire Code.
So 1028.6.
And the language, the most important part of the language is depending on the structural condition, a load test may be ordered. So that's really the language that for space purposes I shortened it here. But let me just find exactly, because I copied it here for
Is it printed in here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out where I put it, because I made some book changes, so maybe I took it out.
It's their amendment.
Yay. Yeah, I thought it was in here, but again, if you look on the International Fire Code, it's not very long, and here's the best thing, all the codes, as they keep amending and changing, they've never touched fire escape maintenance. So the 2 paragraphs we have has never been altered, has never been changed in the International Fire Code, the International Building Code, and the NFPA. They've never, in all the code changes, they've never changed it. And they basically say the same thing. But the International Fire Code says that depending on the condition, a load test may be ordered, that's your part. The building code says you must examine, test, or certify, that's here, and the NFPA says the authority having jurisdiction shall accept by load test or other evidence of strength. So the main purpose of this code information here is to say that all 3 codes state that. You know what I'm saying? There's always language in there, but it's very gray or very non-definitive that says the word test or maintained at all times, and we're trying to say, hey, there's language out there that basically gives you further clarification. Now, the state that did a lot with that was, again, Portland. They went in, they didn't change their code. They just added language into their code to basically departmental procedures and guidelines to basically describe what that really meant. To talk about tags, talk about proper inspection procedures. So I'll show you that as some of the next slides here. So here's the model, again, the one based on Seattle. And they have certain language in there that's very specific, including number 19 that really talks about that unknown into the building. And this is that yearly test that we talked about. Now this is, if you guys get a chance, write this down. In Oregon, it's called fire escape issues. FIR, so if you go to Portland Online or Portland Fire Prevention, the contact there is going to be Stu White. Now, they got the whole language down that includes not only how to properly, the codes associated with fire escapes, talking about the tags, the inspection procedure. They even tell you they have a repair criteria on how they want you to, sandblast fire escape. So they've got quite a bit of language in there, and it's all online. And they conclude with a checklist. Got it? So,
That's a document from the building department?
no, fire department, fire prevention. In the United States, just so you guys know, 40 out of the 50 states, fire escapes are handled through fire prevention. In 10 out of the 50 states, the building department gets their nose into it, and sometimes they don't do such a good job. They're never on it anyway, so they don't care. Somebody dies, it's just a fireman. That's the problem. See, the building department is supposed to be issuing permits. Fire department basically is supposed to take care of it after the fact, when, in the maintenance and the inspections and stuff. So but about 40 states, fire prevention is handling this. Here's the tags that we talked about. Again, the repairs and procedures and guidelines. So when you read this, and you go to Portland Online, and you read their documents, they're following these guidelines now. So basically, they didn't go and change the law, they basically added language to interpret what do we need now related to maintenance. Because we still have plenty of language there that tells you how to build one. And if they were building hundreds of thousands of fire escapes in the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, they're building 1,000 fire escapes a year now in the whole entire US. But the rest of them are all getting maintained, and there isn't one bit of language about maintenance anywhere in the US. This is a typical tag in Seattle. They're 19 by 17, 11 by 19. They're big monsters. That's what they look like on a fire escape. So if it's white, you're going down a road, you're going down an alleyway and it's all full of smoke, guess what your firefighters are going to do with that fire escape? They're going to get on it and fight the fire. All the information's there, including when the next inspection cycle is, who inspected it, and phone numbers, who signed off on it. So this, you don't have to go back to your office to find out if that fire escape is, when's the last time it was examined. You know when you walk by it on your yearly inspections. This is another hidden gem. You guys have your fire towers. You know how many fire towers are ready to drop your firemen? I inspected this fire tower and I shut it down that day because I started performing hammer tests. Look at all the treads that started falling down when I hammer tested this fire escape. That firemen weren't using it the day before. So you got all your fire towers and you guys have never had your fire towers examined. Look how much rust is in there. It's half an inch of rust. And you guys put all that hay in there, and you've got inside your fire towers, you have metal stairs that get water how often? All the time, with soot and dirt. And guess what happens? This is the inside stairs. Look at all the rust growing there. See all the rust? So if the fire don't get you, your training will. This is on a old folks home for veterans hospital. It took 2 years to finally get the funding to fix that. You got a lot of buildings where trucks smash into these fire escapes. Housing projects, where we go there and look at, housing projects, Section 8. This is a city hall. Do you guys see the missing treads? It's like the parachute, it's the parachute you're never gonna have to check. It's that spare tire you never check to see if it's full. Here's a great one. This is a fire escape. In the East Coast, I finally got a fire escape off an elementary school. I took it off during Christmas. This is a kindergarten through 8th grade. Kids use this from the second floor to the kindergarten yard every day, 4 feet wide. I was actually able to save this, and I bring it to the shows, and I use it as a showpiece. But this is what we did. I basically took this fire escape and I took it from 4 feet across and I made it down to only 2 feet across, cut it. And then I started doing things to it that everybody else does, so you know how to not fix a fire escape correctly, including welding with lead, including rust, the rust that's in the connection, just closing it up with a welding rod. I did it all. So we created, it was rotting, but kids use this every day. We only had a week during Christmas break to get it out and put a brand new one in. But this is just to show that even though that building, which was a Catholic school, that was rented out to a French school who used it for kindergarten through 8th grade, they had yearly building inspections, fire inspections, and nobody ever noted that fire escape as a violation. It was the handyman that said, get this thing out of here before it kills one of these kids that has a rich parent. So, these are just some of the shots of what we did to basically fix. See the square head bolts? This is us when we took it apart and just made it into a much smaller piece. It's not even painted. This is how I found it. This is it originally in position, and this is the new one that we built off to the side. Kids, you coming out of the second floor to the ground, to the recess, every day.
And that's an exterior stair.
Exterior stair that's built like a fire escape.
Right. So in the term of fire escape, that would be included.
Well, the International Building Code says all exterior steel wooden stairs. So in Massachusetts, which uses the model code for...
So the issue isn't just fire escapes, it's also exterior.
Well, it says right here, again, subject to interpretation, subject to what code you're adopting at the time and all that. It says right here, all exterior bridges, steel or wooden stairways, fire escapes, and egress balconies. What's an egress balcony?
It's a collector that collects off multiple rooms, goes across and has a stair at either end.
Okay. It is also in the bridges. What do you classify as a bridge?
A bridge, well, it might even have a different term in today's code world, but it's a structure that would attach one building to another, or from one
so skywalks.
Skywalk. Yeah.
Bridge over a little babbling brook in somebody's private piece of property. That's a bridge, right? You have two buildings, two apartment buildings, and this one feeds the door to the other building.
That has a different name. I'm failing the name right now, but there is a a term in the building code for that type of structure.
The point that I was trying to make is all exterior steel wooden stairs.
I can see, we have these garden apartments out in Southern California that have this type of thing. But,
Yeah, if
you
it's
know, I don't
outside-
ever recall looking at the stairway real
Well, I'm gonna
critically.
show you some more.
Fire section.
Oh, be afraid when you do,
Yeah.
because a lot of them have crumbling cement as their
Right.
step.
So again, the main point is that if it's external and it's subject to weather and water and air, guess what it does? And unless you want to start carrying 3-pound sledgehammers and do this to protect yourself as you walk up and down wood or steel structure, we tell you, don't walk up these fire escapes if you have evidence that there's square head bolts there and rivets there.
And what I'll
Why
do
would you
now
wanna
is I-
walk? You already know she hasn't gone through a refurbishment cycle.
Oh, no.
Fireman's pole.
Really?
Now, this is in Rutgers University.
That 88,
The only thing this needs to be is on a frat. And one side is boys, the other side is girls. But this is basically how you make your escape. This is the only slide pole fire escape I've ever seen in my life. Has anybody ever seen a slidescape?
Yes.
Where? What's it?
Pictures on the internet.
We have a real one. In Elizabeth, New Jersey, there's a 12-story slidescape inside a building from 1902. And it's still part of their means of egress. So I'm going to show it to you. So we have some dinosaurs out there. Guys, you guys remember this, right?
Right.
This is that piece about Bridgeport. I just want to remind you that fire escapes are everywhere, and a lot of times they're in clustered commercial residential apartment complexes. And when's the last time you trained an 8-year-old girl to navigate a ladder all by herself, then dangle and jump down to the ground because the fire's behind it? Looks like it was her apartment or.
Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up. Right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in their fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. Our firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
So one of the main reasons why we got to get onto these fire escapes, you got to stop going to rescue missions.